Today we're going to look at judgment. And there's two forms of judgment. There's discernment. This is 2 inches. This is 3 inches. This is a table. This is a chair. So you have the judgment that says this is what this is and this is not what this is. The other form of judgment is this is good, this is bad, in objective or moral terms. Now, you can have kind of this is good, this is bad in contextual terms. For example, in a gas engine, diesel is bad. In a diesel engine, gas is bad. And so you say, well, why is it bad? We're not talking morally. Well, we're talking about the fact that you've got, in most cases, a ruined engine or a lot of hassle and non-functionality if you put the wrong fuel in the engine. And so you have objective fact, then you have relational fact. Diesel in a gas engine will not work. Gas in a diesel engine will not work. 240 volts plugged into a 110 appliance generally burns up the appliance. You have relational facts, and then you have moral superiority, inferiority, as in better than, less than, in an innate sense. So these are your 3 forms of judgment. Now, the first form is incredibly useful to operate the pattern analyzing brain. So we have a mental, rational brain that analyzes patterns. And its job is to correlate things and help us understand relationships so that we can be more successful. And so the first 2 forms of discernment, this is what this is and this is how this relates to this, are all part of that program. Now, there's a lot of moralizing or inferiority, superiority dynamics that come into the last form of judgment. And that's what we'll be talking about today. So let me get a little bit more comfortable here. And the first thing to look at is the function of an inferiority-superiority judgment. And the function is to dissociate or separate or isolate. Because in a vertical relationship where I'm up here and you're down there, what we're introducing is a mental overlay of value strata. You have this in racism, classism, sexism, ageism, religious bigotry, chauvinism. All of these different aspects of isms are attempting to make the case that part of reality is superior innately to other parts of reality. The mind is superior to the body. The body is superior to the mind. Old people are superior to young people. Young people are superior to old people. Whatever it is, these isms are differentiators on a value hierarchy that seeks to make this case innately. One is innately more valuable. It is more godly to be clean. God is better than demons. God is superior to demons. So you have basically a bifurcation of reality, a discernment, around which an innate inferiority or superiority is associated. Now, the innate superiority or innate inferiority, that superiority differentiation, creates a barrier. When you say that black people are better than white people, are better than brown people, are better than yellow people, when you say that brown people are better than white people, you create a distance, a gap. Because usually within the function and focus of judgment, the goal is to differentiate. For example, the basis of black slavery was the basis that blacks were inferior to whites, and the reason for that was blacks were more animal than human. So it was more human to be white. This is an idea, but it's an idea that separates. And on the basis of this separation, in almost all cases, with and following this separation, you have sociopathic behavior. Because, well, it's fine. Because humans are different from animals, it's fine to torment and torture animals unconsciously in animal farms, etc. That's fine, because we have nothing to do with that. It's dirty, it's sickening, it's a low quality of life, but it doesn't matter because that's an animal and we're a human. And now it's degrading, it's sickening, it's a low quality of life to induce slavery on another human being, but we're going to cut a line. Now, it's a very, subtle line. It's a very unscientific line, because we're going to say, if you've got a suntan, that's good. But if you've got a dark suntan that goes from being beautiful, now you're subhuman. Or if your hair is straight, but if you curl your straight hair, that's very nice. But if you have really tight curls by birth, now suddenly you're subhuman. So you have straight hair, that's good. Curl your straight hair, that's even better. But be born with natural curls and now you're subhuman. It's not exactly at what line does it go from being superior looks and enhanced beauty to suddenly you're a slave, you have no rights as a human being, and we will proceed on that premise. So what's often prior to a sociopathic act is an act of dissociation. Now, dissociation means to disown, to separate from. Now, obviously, if you own, if you belong, if someone is owned and belongs in the group, you have to treat them like you treat your group. So the first act in violation is dissociation. You are not like us. It's fine to treat you inhumanely because you are a criminal, and criminals are bad, and criminals must be punished, and so we're going to treat you badly and punish you. We would never do that to a normal human being, but you're not a normal human being. You are a criminal, or you are a fugitive, or you are a runaway, or you are a pariah, or you are a Republican. I mean, we would never treat normal human beings that way, but, a Republican, give me a break. I mean, are they human? You're a Democrat. It's like people, we have to treat people nicely, but you're not a person, you're one of those. Sam Keen wrote a book called Faces of the Enemy, and in order to get human beings to go to war and fight other human beings, they have to dehumanize and dissociate. They have to become wargs or wogs or this or that. I mean, they can't just be people, because to kill another person is not it's not natural. It's not instinctive to want to kill another person or another race. But to kill a communist or the enemy or the pigs or whatever it is, and of course you then have to dissociate from pigs, and so usually there's a gradient map of dissociation, and then there are corollary comparisons. So for example, before you can treat pigs subhumanly, kick them, confine them in uncomfortable places, give them garbage to eat, deride them, turn up your nose at a pig, blame and shame the pig, that's so dirty. See, it starts with dirt. Dirt is a life-giving substance around and through which all life emerges. The human species does not exist without dirt. The human species does not exist without plants. The human species does not exist without fruits, without vegetables, without grains, right? And grains and fruits and vegetables do not exist without plants. And plants do not exist without dirt. So dirt is sacred if you value life. It's profound. It's the idea that dirt is dirty is a conspiracy so thick within the cult. You have to wonder, how did we manage to brainwash an entire cult into thinking that the source of all life is somehow bad, negative, or far from cleanliness? The absence of dirt is close to godliness. Now, when your entire life, for example, supposedly God created human beings in his image. In a chauvinistic paradigm, it will be a him. That is the source. In a balanced paradigm, it will be a polarity, a yin-yang. It will be a him/her/synergy. That's the science of creation. Whenever you have a polarity, it is innately connected with its opposite. So you cannot have a polarity and then emphasize half of it, which is innately connected to its other half, and be scientific. You're going into cult dogma at this point. But we begin by dissociating from our source, which is dirt. Without dirt, there is no life on this planet, let alone human beings, let alone people having the luxury of speculating about the pros and cons of dirt on a camera that comes out of dirt. The batteries come out of dirt. The metals come out of dirt. The plastics, you could argue both ways, but they're certainly turned into plastics by things that come out of dirt, and they come below dirt, and the oil is saturated with dirt. So anyway, so all of these, quote, clean things, like plastic, a clean, crisp iPhone, right? That's pure and close to God. But the dark liquid petroleum oil, that's dirty. But the one comes from the other. These pristine factory robots doing this, that's scientific, that's beautiful, that's whatever. But all of the natural elements, the water percolating through the soil and leaving iron residues, the movement in different layers of the earth, that whole organic ecological dynamic, that's somehow different. But the one stands on the foundation of the other. So first you insult dirt by dissociating science, the observation of corollary relationships, from the stigma. You build a cult dogma on top of the science that obscures the science and pretend that somehow one can be superior to dirt, that clean people are superior to dirty people, you know, whatever the dogma is, and you insult dirt. Then pigs have a wonderful habit, just like hippopotamuses, of giving themselves mud baths and things. Now, you can find clay mud baths in the finest spas. It's healthy for the skin, it pulls out toxins, etc. And so you have to wonder at the effort a cult needs to go through to stigmatize an animal like a pig for rolling around in mud and getting facials on its whole body for free that make it cleaner as that mud dries, it pulls toxins out of the body. So hippopotamuses, rhinoceroses, there's a whole series of very healthy animal instinctual evolutionary behavior that is basically to expose oneself to the purity, to the cleanliness of the earth, to remove toxicities, concentrations of imbalances within the body. But having first stigmatized dirt, we now stigmatize pigs. Pigs are dirty, which is enough said, because having condemned dirt to being inferior to what? Air, fire, water? What is dirt inferior to? Non-dirt? When your body is refined dirt, nourished by fruit and vegetables that are refined dirt, it's pretty hard, so to say that your body has clean dirt rather than dirty dirt, it's just a very shaky logical argument to make. So it has to be made through social dogma, because dogmas are impressed by a majority. They don't require intelligence. They don't require scientific veracity. You just say, we all say this is the norm, and if you don't do that, we're going to tease you, we're going to humiliate you, we're going to shame you. And so you'll go along with it because you don't want to be teased and humiliated and shamed by a shame-based sociopathic cult. And that's what we are. So don't be dirty, avoid the dirt. So now we shame pigs. So having established that pigs must be inferior to humans and other animals because they're dirty, and dirt must be inferior because we said it is, now we can call humans pigs. You dirty pig. Now this is supposed to carry an enormous amount of weight. It's supposed to be the most profound insult imaginable. You dirty pig. What exactly is it saying? It's saying I don't have the discernment to tell the difference between a pig, and this is usually leveled at human beings. So because I'm incompetent, or that I've fallen under the spell of my cult and believed when they said that dirt was bad, and then believed when they said that pigs were bad because they're covered in dirt. And now I'm supposed to feel insulted because someone who can't tell the difference between a pig mammal and a human mammal is calling me a pig and highlighting the dirt, often ignoring the fact that there isn't a lot of dirt on me. And so then I'm supposed to react as if I've been insulted, when in fact I've been reunited with my ecological heritage. Because I come from dirt, I come from mammals, I come from life. And reestablishing that connection is a sign of a healthier pattern of thinking, a more ecological form of thinking. because our Native American brethren would acknowledge that we are connected with this earth, as are the other creatures, and would treat the earth well because of that connection and because we treat ourselves with value and well. Now, a psychologically and ecologically illiterate cult does not treat us well and does not treat our environment well and does not know the difference or the connection. You see, an ecologically illiterate cult doesn't know the difference between treating the earth poorly and treating ourselves poorly. An ecologically illiterate cult believes that you can dump chemicals in the groundwater because that's the earth, and that's nothing to do with me. And then when children die of poisoned groundwater, we don't make the connection. It's like, I didn't want that to happen. I don't care about my ecology. I care about people. But let's fill the ecology with smoke. Let's fill the groundwater with toxins. Let's burn off the vegetation and have wild temperature fluctuations and storms. I don't care about the ecology. I just care about myself and my family. That's like saying I don't care about the oven. I just care about the cake that is burned when the oven is abused and turned too high or not turned on or doesn't work. And so it's not scientific. And all value hierarchical type of judgment is not scientific. It's a very shaky argument that begins by condemning and outcasting mentally something that we don't know how to deal with or don't understand practically. Because if we actually understood the science of dirt, it would be impossible to use dirty as an insult. There's nothing insulting about dirt. It's profound. All life. You know, you may believe in this God or Allah or Jesus or Buddha. If you take dirt away, you're dead, regardless of your belief in any of those deities. If you take the belief in Allah away, you've got Helunga, you've got Quetzalcoatl, you've got 10,000 mythologies and deities. You've got endless deities that humans have created over thousands of years in tens of thousands of cultures and languages over time. You've got one dirt. The species doesn't die if you take away the belief in a deity. We'll just find a new deity, as we have for well over 50,000 years. But you take dirt away, and all the animals, all the trees, all the plants, for the most part, and certainly human beings, perish because there's no dirt. And so it becomes an unsustainable scientific hypothesis to say that the name of a deity is more valuable than dirt, and certainly to polarize them, and say cleanliness is close to godliness and whatever. Dirtiness is close to what? To what? What is this thing that is somehow supposedly separate from God, Goddess, all that is? Because that's the science, is you cannot separate one thing from another. There are so many variables that link them. Now, coming into this superiority, inferiority, so first you've condemned dirt, then you've condemned pigs because they have more dirt on them than many animals. Follows naturally. If you're going to condemn dirt, you've got to then condemn animals that engage with more dirt. perfectly sensible. If you're going to condemn animals for how much dirt they have, someone has a little dirt on their cheek or something like that, you could make a slim case to say, okay, well, you've got more, the pig has more dirt than the giraffe, and so is inferior. And now you've got more dirt than Joey over there, who doesn't have a streak of dirt there. And so you're getting a free mud bath facial and Joey isn't. And so you're inferior. And then since we treat pigs, having decided that pigs are inferior to other animals, and we treat pigs with contempt for being dirty, we treat them with cruelty for being dirty, who knows, whatever it is. Now we can treat you cruelly because you are more dirty than so-and-so. Now you can kind of also see that once you start off with this root thing, in this case a faulty belief that dirt is inferior to non-dirt, when in fact all life on the planet, including our own, would end without dirt, like that. I mean, just wave your magic wand, eliminate all dirt from the entire surface of the earth. First of all the trees fall down. Within a matter of probably less than a week, every human is dead. And if they do manage to quickly sequester and get oxygen tanks and get their underground bunkers to prolong their life for another few months, what they're doing is getting the residue of dirt. That oxygen came from trees that grew in dirt. Those store supplies of 10-year lasting expiration biscuits in the underground bunker were grown in dirt. So you're just saying, just before we expunge the planet of its dirt, of its infestation of inferiority, we're going to take all the fruits that wouldn't be there without dirt and harvest them so that we can expunge dirt and kill everyone else and the entire planet and all of the species and trees and stuff. And then we'll be there and we'll have, a year's supply of sequestered dirt in the form of oxygen that came from trees that came from dirt, and crackers that came from wheat that grew in dirt. And so we're going to sequester this little thing, and then we'll die out in the last of the species will die out when they get tired of being in the underground bunker or their oxygen runs out or whatever. And then the earth will be closer to godliness because there will be no dirt and no species and trees that came from dirt. And so hooray for the bigots. The entire ecology of the planet has collapsed, and the bigots are happy or would be happy, except they're dead. So it's kind of a limited success for the bigots, but while they're gasping for air and dying out in torment in their last breath of oxygen that isn't there, they can say, hooray, we're closer to God because we're cleaner, having gotten rid of all this dirt. So it's a shaky, but once you've established that as dogma, then you can build the other things rationally on the delusion. Because dirt is bad. Well, once you get someone to believe that, well, then obviously pigs are bad, and obviously dirty humans are better than this. And if you then believe that people who are bad, in a moral sense, should be treated worse, should be punished, well, who's your role model? An old guy in the sky that unleashes his wrath, that tests his children, that tortures his children, that does all this kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, so if we can create the dogma that bad people should be punished for being bad, that's one dogma. And then the other thing is that there are bad things, namely dirt. Now you can decide who is the most dirty and punish them first, and then you can go for the the less dirty, and punish them. And then, and you can do varying degrees of punishment, right? So you punish these people the most, and then you punish these people the less, and these people the less. And so you have these two dogmas, in this case, dirt and punishment. And now you've got a whole framework to try and say, no, you shouldn't punish me. I've got less dirt than so-and-so. You shouldn't kill my daughter. I'm less Jewish than this other family there. They've got a more Jewish nose and more Jewish name. Go and kill them. They're more of whatever it is that is, falsely ascertained to be bad. If you decide that money is evil, then of course you have to murder the wealthiest people first, and then the next wealthy. And in communist China, education was bad, so they had to burn the books, of course. But also, if you were a professor, maybe you should be executed. But what if you were only the wife of a professor? Well, you shouldn't be given a high role in the Communist Party in Maoist China. And so, whatever it is you decide. Freedom, is it good? Is it bad? Dirt, is it good? Is it bad? Education, is it good or is it bad? Money, is it good or is it bad? Sex, is it good? Is it bad? So-and-so are having more sex than somebody else. Clearly they should be punished. So you have these different types of judgments. Now, what's the positive function of judgment? If you're a human being in our cult, why do you want to judge? There's a couple of things. One is expediency. Because if you can decide that this group of people that you are exploiting, that you are using, that you are betraying, is somehow inferior to you, what you're saying is they're separate from you. Now, what separation does is anesthetizes the relationship. You don't have to deal with the feelings of, a dirty pig. You kick the dirty pig. You show disgust and contempt for the dirty pig. It's like, sorry, pig. You get free facials. You get mud packs and mud baths almost every day. Smart humans are learning to catch up to you and go to special spas and soak in the mud and natural mud things, roll around the mud and dry out. You've been doing this for thousands of years. Good for you. You've done it for free. Good for you. But most humans have not caught up to your level of free daily mud baths. So we're going to treat you with contempt. So you have a certain license for expediency. It doesn't take as much time in some ways to be expedient. You can be more myopic. You can conserve attention. So you got one benefit. Another thing is numbing. If you're going to treat someone cruelly and you dissociate from them, you have to dissociate from them based on some kind of judgment. They're a criminal. They're poor. See, we don't talk to poor people because, we're in the upper class. We're a lord. We're a king. Of course they're suffering. That's the job of poor people. Poor people have always suffered. But, oh my goodness, Princess Margaret, she had a toe, she had one of her nails fall off. Oh my goodness. Let's get over there immediately. Let's get her the finest doctor, etc. Princess, because she's a princess, you see, and princesses are superior to other people. They're more than, so-and-so's lost a whole foot, but they're poor. What does that have to do with us? Princess Margaret, she lost a nail? Oh my goodness. Let's have a meeting. Let's take a carriage, let's whip a horse, not a moment to lose, dashing through the streets. But they're separate. And so the function of judgment is to create a numbing separation that excuses the anesthetic, the lack of empathy, the lack of feeling for the other person, the acknowledgement of the connection. So anesthetize, speed up, have narrow beam focus, so it allows us to be narrow focused. I can just focus on exactly what I'm doing. I want to make a lot of money. I don't have to think about you because you're Jewish. I don't have to think about you because you're poor. I don't have to think about you because there's no law that makes me think about you. All I have to think about is this, because I'm trying to make a lot of money. And I don't want to suffer while I pursue my goal. And so I've got to dissociate. So I want to focus on this, and I want to dissociate from all of you. And I don't want to feel badly when I cause you suffering, or you suffering, or you suffering. And so I have to have a list of judgments that separate me from everyone that I'm harming, that separate me from everyone that I'm exploiting and using, and this and that and the other. So I have to separate. And then I give myself license based on the degree of separation. That's an animal. It's fine to cause them excruciating agony, but it's not fine to do it just to torment them. I'm superior to this pig, but if I was just, using an X-Acto knife to torment the pig and cause it to scream as much as possible, then there would be something wrong with me, because then I'm what? I'm evil. I'm whatever it is that's separate from good. So then I would be a bad person. Now, is an evil person less than a pig? The pig isn't maliciously trying to torment anything, and certainly just rolling around in. So anyway, but pigs are useless, of course. They're to be used by us because we're superior. But if I was to enjoy the suffering, like to cut a worm into 20 little pieces, just watch it wriggle and cut it again. Oh my goodness. Get me another worm. That would mean I was bad. I would be less than someone who was noble and above such things. After all, worms belong in dirt. And if I'm so focused on a living organism that produces healthy dirt, did you know worms produce all this nutrients? Worm castings are like 170 times more nutritious than the dirt they moved through. So they're producing better dirt for all, as far as life is concerned. As far as humans are concerned, this is terrible. Worms are the epitome of Satan because they produce dirt, and dirt is further away from God. And they're producing all this good dirt. You could say they're producing pure evil because dirt is far away from God, and worms are producing the best dirt. And so, as part of God's crusade, perhaps one should righteously, torment worms for producing evil. But at what point is it not righteous and it becomes sick? Oh gosh, what point is that? And if it's sick, then I have to keep that a secret, because then God judges, right? Because we always project our own behavior onto our deities. And so if we're busy judging who's better than who and who should be punished and who should be enslaved, then God must be doing it too, because we couldn't imagine a deity that was more intelligent than us, because that would require us to be more intelligent in order to imagine a deity that was more intelligent. It is impossible for an idiot to imagine a highly intelligent deity. If you fully understand what a highly intelligent deity is, you are intelligent enough to understand that. If you are too dumb to understand that you are dumb, you cannot imagine a deity that is not similarly dumb. But you will be too dumb to know that the deity is dumb because you are dumb, and dumb people do not have the intelligence necessary to know that they are dumb. Often highly intelligent people have the intelligence to play dumb in a world that is threatened by high intelligence. But that's a coping strategy of a highly intelligent person in a sociopathic environment. It's not a reflection on the person who, as an infant, as a child, in a helpless power dynamic, plays with the cards given to them. Nonetheless, judgments numb, judgments dissociate, and judgments allow expedient, narrow-minded behavior, narrow-view behavior. It's good for this one goal, but it's destroying my ecology, it's destroying my sense of humanity, it's destroying my community, but it's good for this one thing at this one time, which is, of course, a chauvinistic objective. To pursue one aim with the exclusion of all ecological awareness of its impact is the act of an idiot, but it's also the act of a chauvinist. Because to be chauvinistic is to value the point, is to value the singular at the expense of the circular. Because chauvinism at its core is to value yang more than yin, to value masculine more than feminine. And the point is the masculine principle, the circle is the feminine principle, whether it's the penis and the vagina as one masculine, feminine expression, whether it's the steeple and the landscape as another masculine, feminine expression, whether it's getting to the point or enjoying the journey, whether it's narrow-minded focus or diffuse awareness, we're talking about attention in polarity. And what chauvinism says on the basis of dogma is that one thing is innately better than another thing, and that it's single-mindedly good. One must single-mindedly convert the world to Christians. And in the force of that single-minded goal, let's steal the Aztec goal. Let's rape and murder their people unless they pray to Jesus. And then all is forgiven. We'll take the gold for Mother Church, of course, not for ourselves. But we'll take the gold. We'll convert you all. We'll cut off your feet if you protest and bow to anyone other than... And we'll kind of gloss over the oddness that somehow Jesus is fine, because in your language that means Jesus. But if you say Buddha, because in your language that means Jesus, no, that's not good at all. It has to be our version of the deity or no version. It's this or a lake of fire. Believe in forgiveness or you will be burned for all eternity. Do what I say, I, the singular, or I will punish you, for make it very uncomfortable. So you have this, so your deity is dogmatic, chauvinistic, of course a guy, that's ties in with chauvinism. There are no, in the leading faiths today, there are no women as top deity. Now, part of that is the feminine principle is sharing. And so it doesn't really make sense to say, as the symbol of femininity, I'm above you. That's the negative side of chauvinism, to say that, let's fight to get to the top, and the top dominates and exploits and uses the bottom, and the top is superior to the bottom. That's part of chauvinism as well, because within chauvinism, you take half the world and you elevate it relative to the other half of the world dogmatically. And in that sense, high is better than low. So obviously the one at the top is better than the one at the bottom. Now, obviously this analogy falls apart scientifically, because when you try and show a scientist how the palm tree that is high, the fruits, the dates at the date palm, for example, or the oranges in the orange tree, these are better than the roots of the tree. Well, okay, so let's test it out. Let's try and improve the tree. We'll cut away the roots. We'll remove all the soil, everything that's dirty and bad and ugly and dirty and dirty and dirty. And of course, dirty means bad. We just won't go into exactly why, because we lack the data to do so. But it's dirty, and that should be good enough for you. We're going to hit you anytime you're dirty. If you didn't get the message that dirt is bad, well, we'll hit you again because you have a dirty mind. And there you have it. So we're going to remove all the dirt from the tree. We're going to remove all the roots from the tree. And now the heavenly orange, the heights of heavenly beauty can proceed unfettered by the demonic influence of dirt and roots. As the oranges wither, as the leaves fall off, as the tree dies, you can pray to God to bless the sanctity of the tree that is no longer sullied with mud and nutrients and water and all of that dirty stuff. And then all of the shit, which is of course a curse word. You have, in a chauvinistic cult, you take half of what is sacred and you curse it because you don't understand its relationship. So shit is a curse word because it helps create healthy dirt. If you want a really abundant harvest, what do? You plow in shit. In other words, humans help make dirt, and then dirt helps make humans? I mean, there's a circular, ecological, harmonious, win-win relationship in which humans create dirt and dirt creates humans? Yes. Well, how does that work if you say that dirt is bad because it's dirty? Well, then you have to insult humans for their feces. You piece of shit. You mean the piece of sacred ground that produces all light? Produces all life, all plants? I'm a piece of that? No. Not the scientific sense of giving birth to light and all that. Just remember, forget what you learned in chemistry and all of that. Forget what you learned in ecology. Just remember, dirt is bad because we hit you, because we shamed you, because we told you to listen to your parents and don't talk back and don't think and don't do this. Dirt is bad. Just remember all that programming. And now, remember? Okay, remember all that programming. Now you have energy coming out of your body that creates more and more potent dirt. It's just thick with fertilizer and energy, etc., to create life. Now you're a piece of, but don't remember that. Remember that it's close to dirt. It's dirty. So dirt is dirty and shit is dirty because it's like dirt. It's potent dirt. It's like worm castings. It's like, kill those worms. You should be ashamed that you gave part. You participated in life. Now it's God's life and God created it, but you should be ashamed for doing it. So you have this type of dynamic, and of course it doesn't make any sense. But you don't want to be hit. You don't want to be ostracized. You don't want to be the one saying, "You're dirty, you piece of shit." Hooray, hooray, I'm giving birth to a living world. Thank you for the compliment. You see, the insult is based on ignorance, is what I'm trying to say. All judgments are based on ignorance, because there's no data to support the idea that being higher is better than being lower, or that the higher could exist without the lower, or that the black could exist without the white, or that the white could exist without the black, or that the East could exist without the West, or that men could exist without women. Give it a go. When you can produce a male without the participation or assistance of any kind of a woman, then you have at least gotten the basis to be legitimate in your analysis if men can be better than women. But as long as men depend on women to exist, there's never been a man that was not born through a woman. As long as we're in that reality, it's somewhat ignorant to pretend that men are superior to women. Because however great men are, and they are amazing, women must be greater if they are needed to produce them. The golden goose is more valuable than the golden egg because it can lay another one. So however valuable men are, women are that much more valuable for producing every man that's ever existed. Now, this is a little bit going in the other direction just for the purpose of, providing some counterweight, because the thickness of chauvinism is so great. You don't get women without men either, though. So it becomes a moot point. You don't get up without down. You don't get black without white. You don't get women without men. You don't get women. You don't get men without women. You don't get, in some cases, it gets a little bit shaky in some of these because they're not true polarities, but in many cases you don't get poor without wealth, and you don't get wealth without poor. So if there's a connection between the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor, and being extremely wealthy is good, then being poor must be good as well, because you don't get one without the other. If being poor is bad, then being extremely wealthy is bad too, because you don't get one without the other. It takes a lot of poor, minimally paid Amazon workers to create one of the wealthiest people on the planet, Jeff Bezos. If all those people weren't willing to work for $7, $8, $9, $10, $11, $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour, and all those regimented protocols that Amazon Systems has developed to extract more result per person before someone collapses or burns out or just can't do it, or gets sick or whatever. It takes a lot of those, tens of thousands of those, to create one Jeff Bezos. So if Jeff Bezos is good, then all that poverty has to be good as well, because you don't get a Jeff Bezos. You take away all those people, and suddenly Jeff Bezos is not the wealthiest person in the world, because he's skimming off of tens and tens of thousands, paying them a little bit less, so that he can pay the stockholders and the CEO, et cetera, a little bit more. And then people like that if they are investors. And so they pour more money in investments, so then they get even more, because that drives up the stock price. If it's not good for investors to make lots of money from investments, then it's not good for the employees to make less money, so that the stockholders can have more value. They're connected. You can't say it's great that investors make more money, but it's bad that workers are poorly paid. You have to say it's good that workers are poorly paid so that the investors can make more money, in that type of polarity. So who's better? Is one inferior or superior? They don't fit without the other. There's an interdependence. The tree requires the root and the soil. The CEO requires the entry-level employees, which are usually the greatest number. So these types of dynamics are present. Now, what's the cost of judgment? The cost is numbness, is anesthetics. Every time we dissociate and say that we are superior to something, we are also inferior to something, because everything exists on a continuum. So if we are superior to all the people who are poor, for example, the homeless, well, we're all superior to the homeless in a capitalist cult, because capital is more important than human beings, and homeless people have less capital than people with houses. So of course we would all be superior to our homeless. Now, if the homeless, on the other hand, are superior to the capitalists, because the meek will inherit the earth, the poor will the closer to God, the rich man can't pass through the eye of the needle, and all this. Well, there's a lot of rich Christians that don't seem to be paying a lot of attention to that. If the poor are better than the rich people, then you have dissociation. But whatever you decide is moralistically better than money, power, fame, looks. You know, you have the whole dogma around symmetrical appearance, and you have an attractiveness cult that would have women with the right breast size and the right cheekbones and the right skin color and the right weight believe, obviously falsely, that they are superior human beings to people who are fat and have the wrong hair color and slightly asymmetrical faces and this and that. So once you decide that people who are more attractive, quote unquote, are better than people who are less attractive, quote unquote, well, there's always someone more attractive, so now you're inferior to them and you're superior to these people here. But the more isolated you get in the pinnacle of value judgment, you are at the top. That's ultimate success. If money is the arbiter of value and you're the richest person in the world, you're now at the top. You are now superior to every other person within that framework, which means you are isolated and numb to every other person, because you're living in a cult that dogmatically says and treats you as if you are superior to this because of this, this, and this. And as a result, you are separate from every other person on the planet. And you have license to treat them poorly. And they've got to agree with it, because you're richer than they are, and rich makes value. It's not the human being, it's the digits associated with the human being. So why to judge? It's expedient. It is simple in its narrow-mindedness, and it numbs excruciating pain. And it doesn't require the complexity of collaboration and partnership. Why not to judge? It separates us from who we are. It is based on delusions that do not hold up to science. We are connected to all things in one way or another. So when we exploit and betray and damage much of our environment and our family and ourselves and our bodies, etc., in order to expediently pursue the higher goal, we end up hurting, cutting, and destroying ourselves in the process, and we usually don't realize it until the process of dissociatively and sociopathically pursuing a single-minded goal leads us to that goal at a higher price than we're willing to pay. So, pros and cons of judgment.